It is so decided.
In 2015, world leaders made a promise for the well-being of all people and the planet.
We need action
to reach the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030.
Have you ever heard of SDG? Well, SDG is actually an abbreviation of the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 SDGs that we should know of, which are no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduce inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice and strong intuitions, and lastly, partnership for the goals. In this video, we will be discussing the first SDG, which is no poverty. Firstly, let's acknowledge the heartbreaking reality that millions of people around the globe encounter every day, that is living in extreme poverty. They lack the bare necessities such as education, shelter, as well as healthcare, but we could always change this narrative together. Poverty isn't just a personal matter, but it could have larger scale effects such as to communities, nations, and even the world. It hampers the economic opportunity to reach their fullest potential. The first of the 17 SDGs would be no poverty. This ambitious goal aims to end poverty in all its forms by the year 2030. It's not just a lofty aspiration, but a commitment to building a future whereby every individual has the chance to live a dignified life. Eradicating poverty requires a multi-phased approach, such as investing in education, creating sustainable job opportunities, and establishing robust social support systems that are pivotal in breaking the cycle of poverty. By empowering individuals, we create a ripple effect that uplifts communities around the world.
Poverty is someone's reality in every part of the world, and it has its severity. We will be talking about the current financial state that a lot of Malaysian citizens that is or has been facing since our country gained independence. Urban poverty in Malaysia worsened by the pandemic depends a comprehensive approach in Budget 2022.
As Finance Minister, detail for us spending plans as much as you can, and how much especially you intend to spend on green investments, on climate investments.
Yes, that's good. That's a very good question. It is actually the current budget that was announced late last year, the budget 2021. It's focusing a lot on the assistance that's required to help, especially the vulnerable sector, which is part of the SDGs that we have embarked on. So the budget is really based on the SDGs. So we are fiscally mindful of the assistance that we have to continue to give to the people and also to the businesses in light of the current lockdown. But in the longer term, we do believe that we are on the right track for economic recovery as we move from one phase to another in our National Recovery Plan.
The B40 faces severe challenges with debt, job loss, and stagnant incomes, while 20% of the M40 has slipped into the B40 category.
Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli revealed that an estimated 20% of M40 households have been pushed to the B40 group due to COVID-19. Meanwhile, 12.8% of T20 households have been moved down to the M40 group. This is according to a simulation study undertaken by the Statistics Department of Malaysia in 2020 to examine the impact of the pandemic on household income.
Originating in the 1970s and 80s, urban poverty stems from migration, poor living conditions, government inaction, and worker exploitation. Despite improvements in housing and minimum wage, the root cause persists. Inadequate income hampers education, healthcare, and social mobility. The government must reassess private sector wages, address foreign worker issues, and implement measures tailored to urban poverty, distinct from rural challenges. PPR flats showcase the grim reality of poor living conditions, social issues, and crime. Children growing up in such environments face substantial impacts. The government needs diverse incentives, including increasing minimum wages, public transport, and support for small businesses. Legislative changes for flexible working hours, reviewing labor laws, and encouraging local employment can uplift the urban poor. Social welfare programs are crucial given the pandemic's hardships. To eliminate urban poverty, Malaysia must adopt inclusive strategies transcending racial and provincial considerations. Poverty and prosperity are dynamic as evidenced by recent shift due to the pandemic. The government should view poverty as a constant socio-economic challenge rather than a myopic political or racial issue. According to the UNDP 1997 Human Development Report and the 2004 United Nations Human Development (UNHDP) report, Malaysia has the highest income disparity between the rich and poor in Southeast Asia, greater than that of Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, and Indonesia. The UNHDP report shows that the richest 10% in Malaysia control 38.4% of the economic income as compared to the poorest 10% who control only 1.7%. However, according to official statistics from the Prime Minister's Department, inequality has been decreasing steadily since 1970, with the Gini coefficient dropping to an all-time low of 0.4 in 2014. Prior to independence, more than half of the Malaysian households were living in poverty. Although the economy registered high growth rates during 1960s, average growth rate of GNP at 7.3%, the country continued to face high poverty incidence in both rural and urban areas. The overall incidence of poverty in 1970 was 49.3%. The incidence in poverty in rural areas was higher at 58.7% as compared to urban areas at 21.3%. The incidence of poverty among the Bumiputra, Malays, and other indigenous groups was higher at 64.8%, while for the Chinese was 26% and Indians at 39.2%. NEP, New Economic Policy. During 1971 until 1990, Malaysia has subscribed strongly to the belief that economic development must benefit all citizens and reduce the disparity. After independence was centered on the philosophy of growth with equity, the development philosophy has been translated through promulgation of the New Economic Policy in 1971 under Malaysia's first long-term development plan. The NEP was implemented through two-pronged strategy. Number 1, eradication of poverty irrespective of race. Number 2, resurrecting of society so as to eliminate ethnic identification with economic functions. The main focus under the poverty eradication strategy has been on income generating, expansion of education and training facilities, employment generation, and modernization of rural life as well as improvement in living conditions. Since the majority of the poor were in agriculture sector in rural areas, the focus of the poverty eradication strategy was on mobilizing rural resources through land development programs and reorganizing institutions towards modernizing and developing the agriculture and rural sectors. Among the programs were new land development schemes, promoting downstream agricultural activities, double chopping or off-season chopping, improved marketing network through the establishment of farmers, technical training and advisory on agriculture, providing industrial and vocalization training for the rural human capital. The role of civil society in poverty eradication. In Malaysia, civil society such as non-governmental organizations, NGOs, cooperatives as the private sector play an important role in poverty alleviation complementary to the roles played by the government. Performance and achievements. The reduction of poverty was evident across all ethnic groups, strata, and region, as shown in Chart 1, Chart 3, and Table 1. Conclusion. Malaysia's experience with regards to poverty eradication efforts has always been associated with rapid economic development and pro-poor strategy under a growth and distribution development framework. This achievement was made possible with the socio-political stability and continuous government efforts.